get started, thank you all for joining us today. In addition to all of you in the room in the Chateau, we have some folks that are joining us via a live stream event. So we've got people outside of Bloomington Normal with us as well. I'm Kathy Clary, and I'm part of the Old Timers Committee. I have a couple of announcements before we get to the main event for the day. First of all, when you came in, you probably saw the SHIP counselors. They provide counseling on Medicare insurance, which is something everybody in this group should be interested in. And the counselors are free. They are not trying to sell you a product, so they are a great resource to talk to when you're trying to figure out what coverage you want to have for the coming year. They have a couple of presentations planned for later this month. One of them is on Part D, which is prescription drugs. That's on the 13th. And then on the 21st, there is one about Medicare Advantage plans. And I'll give you the phone number to call for a reservation, but you can also go out there and get that phone number from them as well. It's 309-888-9099. The second thing I want to talk about is a family fun day at State Farm Park. It's rather exciting. After a several-year absence, State Farm is hosting an event that is open to retirees as well as employees and dependents. Now, you are required to have a valid park card, and you can get that by going out to the Gold Timers website. Family Fun Day is on Saturday the 23rd from 9 a.m. to noon. In addition to attending, if you would like to volunteer, you can do that. There's information on the Gold Timers website, so you can reach out and say you'd like to volunteer. Trying to skim through some of this for the highlights. They're planning a variety of family-friendly activities, including yard games, pickleball clinics, bingo, face painting, and more. There's an opportunity if you'd like to assemble a Red Cross disaster relief kit for children impacted by disasters. On that day, you can wander over to that tent and help them do that. So go out to goldtimers.org and look under special events for more information on that. Next, I'd like to introduce our sponsors. We are sponsored by Busey Bank and Direct Travel. Busey has made the live streaming possible for today's event. First up will be Brett Peterson from Busey, followed by Tim Davis from Direct Travel, and then Gaye Aaberg will introduce our speakers today. Thank you.
Morning. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody again. Again, we've done a number of these. We're looking forward to this one. We have some overlap and synergy as well from our trust side. So again, looking forward to the presentation. My name is Brett Peterson. I lead the market for Busey. Before I'm going to make a few comments, but I would like to give the committee a round of applause because it takes a lot of effort and time to put all this stuff together. So if we can give them a round of applause. A couple items from our standpoint today. It's our first live stream, so bear with us. We're kind of working through some of this technology a little bit here. But again, so this is being live streams for those of you that are out there. This will be recorded as well for everybody in this room, so you'll be able to go back and look at this along with the presentation that you will be providing as well. So that'll all be available after the fact. Our next quarterly meeting is going to be in November. The last couple of years, what we've done is we've had our Chief Investment Officer, Zach Hillard, come in. He is again going to come in and he's going to present. I think it'll be good timing like it is at the end of every year. We're also going to present around a few key financial planning concepts that we have a lot of overlap with this group in general. So some of the things that we see the most that are the most relevant to all of you, we will be presenting on that as well. So if you're able to attend, please do. If not, we're going to try to follow the same format where it's a live webinar. A couple thank yous to my team. Again, Blake from our creative, who's behind the camera. Really appreciate his efforts. Taylor Morgan's our lead advisor here for the wealth management side, helping me on the. We're also doing the tech side today, which is scary, but we'll get through it. Also for my team in the back, many of you know Catherine Wills, who runs our private client group. So Kat, thanks for all your efforts, and Jessica Cruz put a lot of time and effort in as well. So thank you, Jess. Appreciate that. One of the unique things that we're offering in the group that we don't widely offer. Is we do offer private client from the bank side, so that's a concierge service from the retail side at UC Bank. Everybody that's a part of this group automatically qualifies for that. Many of you are already customers, so those of you that are customers, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the business. Any of you that are not in private client but currently bank with us, please let us know, because again, there are some nice benefits with that. From my standpoint, again, if there's anything you guys ever need, we're happy to support and just very appreciative to be here like always. So with that, Tim, I'll give it over to you.
Thanks, Brett. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making a few minutes for us to come up here. I'm Tim Davis with Direct Travel, and we've had a bit of a changing of the guard in Direct Travel. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to, first of all, introduce our new group coordinator, Kimberly Rowad. Kimberly resides in Carlock. She's got 3 beautiful kids and a husband, graduated from Illinois State University, and she's going to be your main point of contact going forward with the travel program that we work with Greg, Keith, and Kathy on very closely. We meet once a month to set up some of these wonderful trips that we have planned, and you saw the flyers out in front of the door here at the table. So the couple things we want to really bring your attention to is we have 2 really great travel shows, and these are not things that require any commitment on your part other than just to show up and enjoy the information that's handed out. We have it's on October 5th at Bloomington Country Club at 4:30 in the afternoon. There'll be some coffee, tea, and water, and we'll have Colette Vacations Business Development Manager Laurel Carlson, and we'll be running us through a lot of the Colette Vacation. How many of you out here have maybe been on a Colette vacation? Yeah, it's great. They do great work. They have great products, and if you've been on one, chances are you've got a credit to use on your next Colette vacation. So coming out October 5th, 4:30 at Bloomington Country Club, we'll get you some snacks, and Laurel will put on a great show for you. The other program that we have coming up is it's right here at the Chateau. It's at 5:30 p.m. And this is a show called On Stage Alaska. And this program is put on by Holland America, and it's an actual show, kind of like a theater show. It's not long like a theater show might be, a production might be, but it is a pretty big production. It should be very entertaining and give you lots of good information about Alaska, whether you've been there before or haven't been and want to go. Come out 5:30 to the Chateau and join us for the Onstage Alaska program. We are requesting an RSVP for both of those events, and so if you would, please let Kimberly know if you're going to attend, so we can make sure we have the right amount of seating and refreshments and so on for everybody. Have anything you'd like to add?
Hi everyone. As Tim said, I am your new leader for the group department here in Bloomington. I've been with Direct Travel about 1.5 years, so I know I've met several of you before and worked with you, and hopefully we'll continue to do that moving forward. Out there we have this brochure, and it does have a summary of all of our trips, and I just wanted to touch a little bit on a couple of them. We do have 3 different winter escape trips, all to different places in Mexico, so when it's cold here, why not go somewhere nice and warm and sunny? Alaska, we have 3 different departures for Alaska. The June and July are the same exact itinerary, but different dates. They're great if you have never been but want to go. And then the one in August, it is a different itinerary, and it really is great if you've been there and loved it and want to go back. Yeah. So if you have any questions, I'll be out there till the end of the show, and my contact information is in here as well.
And we really do work hard to put some great trips together, some great values. Kimberly has escorted a few of them now. She's getting ready to escort another nice group, so her experience continues to grow, and I think you'll find working with Kimberly to be a very enjoyable experience, and we're looking forward to 10 or 15, 20 more years working with the Gold Tigers travel programs. So, again, thanks for allowing us a few minutes this morning. Thanks for joining us on any of the trips, and we look forward to seeing you on trips down the road. And without further ado, we'll turn it over to Mr. Aaberg. Thanks again.
Thanks, Tim, Kimberly, Brett, appreciate it. If you heard me in March, and we're here with Bill Flick, you know I'm not getting up in front of people at all. And thank God it's just a small, but it's an introduction that I'm looking forward to making. But just to show you how bad it is, I woke up at 3:30 this morning, and I could not get back to sleep. So I went to the gym early this morning and met a whole bunch of new people I hadn't seen before. And then I got a text from a friend of mine, and I told him that I'm looking forward to our golfing this afternoon so that I can exhale, speaking to a large group today. And he goes, you know what, Jeff, he said, you'll do fine. Just scope out the audience and pretend like none of them are wearing clothes and they're all in their undergarments. So I did that. And I was amazed to see the difference between the tidy whities and the boxer shorts. But I'll tell you what, there were a handful of you. Wow. I am pleased to introduce this group of professionals. One of the two owners is here, along with her top-notch staff. Those owners are my brother and his wife, who I'll be introducing his wife soon. And I got to tell you just real quickly that before I retired, my brother and my sister-in-law Gaye came to me and said they were thinking about buying a franchise. I looked at them because my brother's 18 months younger than I am, and I said, "Why would you want to gamble in the autumn of your life?" Because he's 18 months younger than I am, and I was going to retire soon after that. And they just said, "We just see a gap in the community." And I basically told Jim he was crazy. He didn't listen to me, and I'm glad he didn't, because within 2 years they were opening offices in Champaign-Urbana, later Decatur, and last Springfield. So we're at 4 locations, and they built a beautiful corporate headquarters and servicing department here in Bloomington North. So, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you both letting me be small part, of this tremendous growth the last 8 or 9 years for me. And with that, I'd like you to welcome one of the owners, Gaye Aaberg, my favorite sister-in-law.
Good morning. It's really special to be here. Jim and I used to be state farmers. We were in fire planes. We traveled from Colorado to California. I became an agent. We realized we didn't play well with management. So we jumped over the fence and we said, let's own our own business. And we ran an independent insurance agency for many, many years. And when we came back to Bloomington, Jeff's mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My mother and father lived in Colorado, and my mom had Parkinson's disease. But my brothers were there, and they were able to help my dad. But Jeff was the only one back here, and he had his kids, Sean, many of you have met, with special needs. And Jim and I said, let's go back to Illinois. And unfortunately, Sister Ann had been diagnosed with mesothelioma. And at the time, we had an employee that 6 weeks after he was employed by us, he was diagnosed with ALS. And Anne went on hospice. George was struggling to find a place to live, and he wanted his ex-girlfriends to take care of him. That's hard. And we really realized there was this gap that needed to be filled where people can have someone come in and help them and still maintain their relationships with their loved ones. Because we've seen resentment build when a parent says, my daughter will take care of me, my son will take care of all of that. And they've already got a family, and they got a full-time job, and it's very hard to fulfill that. So we found Synergy Home Care. Today I am joined by very precious staff. Our son, Gaye Aaberg, who is our Business Development Director, Shelby Weber, who is our Director of Human Resources, Taylor Stevens, who is our Regional Community Liaison over Decatur and Springfield. We have Elizabeth Sullard, who oversees our Regional Liaison Community here in Bloomington Normal in the Champaign-Urbana area. And last but not least, Aggie Hedin. Many of you know her. Aggie joined our team back in 2017, and it's just been a joy ever since. She is our senior our senior client care manager. I'd like to invite Liz and Aggie up to provide you a presentation about what is home care and what do I need to know about it, and could it be a solution for me? So Aggie and Liz?
Of different ways. On a daily basis, I get asked, what is it you guys do? We can provide assistance to daily living. We will help make your meals, feed you if you're unable to, get your prescription medications, buy your groceries, take you to get your haircut. I was just at the airport today doing a pickup, taking someone's loved one to a wedding or to a funeral, and enriching people's lives and helping them enjoy the things that they used to enjoy. Our caregivers can take you fishing. Our caregivers can take you to the golf course. A lot of people just like to go have coffee with the guys like they always did. It's not just the elderly population. It can be new and expectant mothers, and we want to be that person for them. There are so many different ways that we can help you find the joy in your life and have great quality of life wherever it is that we call.
Okay, well hopefully you were able to hear that. Thank you so much for your patience. So today, Aggie and I are going to be presenting to you Synergy Home Care. What are your options and solutions? So today we're going to cover what is home care, of course our favorite topic, but also what are some of your other solutions. So what is home health, what is hospice, palliative, other aging options in McLean County, and also dementia at home. So what is aging in place? The CDC defines it as the ability to live in one's own home and community safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age or ability level. According to the AARP, nearly 90% of adults over 65 want to remain in their current home as they get older. It's very few and far between that you meet an aging person and they say, it is my dream to move into a nursing home, right? And, thankfully there are some very lovely options in our area, but if it is your dream and goal to stay at home with your family, with your pets, how can you do that?
So what is home care? So home care is any services that are performed in one's home. It includes professional support services that may allow a person to live safely in their home, help someone who is aging and needs assistance to live independently, maybe assist someone managing a chronic health issue, or recovering from a medical setback, such as an illness or surgery, maybe a hip replacement, a knee replacement. Provide care and attention to special needs or disabilities. So some of the services may include help with ADL assistance,
And ADL stands for Activities of Daily Living. Fall prevention, transportation, meal preparation, housekeeping, medication reminders, dementia care, companionship, and so much more, as you saw from the video. Professional caregivers provide a short-term or long-term care in the home depending on the person's needs. So we can do a few hours a day, they can help with a few hours a day with help, or 24 hours a day. So here are some of the definitions and more details on some of the home care services provided in the home, such as what Synergy Home Care is licensed for. Once again, we can do assistance for daily ADLs, the activities of daily living, and that includes more the physical help for someone, maybe help with grooming, bathing, dressing, using the restroom, transferring, helping someone ambulate, like I said, the more physical needs. Then there's fall prevention. We want to make sure that we enable safety in the home by assisting an individual as they transfer or walk so they don't fall and further break something. And also help them when they're using a device such as a cane or a walker. Transportation is huge. Assistance getting someone to the doctor's appointments, procedures, grocery store, church, hair appointments, bank. Meal preparation is assisting in getting proper nutrition by preparing any meal requested or preparing meals for later. This is a big one for our seniors. We find that a lot of seniors don't cook anymore, can't cook anymore, and they don't really feel like eating. So the proper nutrition is really helpful for them to get back up on their feet. Housekeeping, providing a safe and clean environment to perform light housekeeping duties, such as dishes, sweeping, dusting, laundry, maybe changing the linens on the bed. And it's really important, one thing our caregivers do is they keep things picked up off the floor in order to prevent those trip hazards. Medication reminders. Caregivers cannot fill medication boxes or decide what clients are taking, but they can ensure that a client takes the prepared medications on time and as directed. So typically what happens is a family member or a pharmacy will set those medicines up and the caregiver will make sure that they take them as directed. Caregivers can also prompt clients to maybe check things such as their blood sugar. They can prompt them to help them with their insulin shots. We can't actually give the shots. And then there's some other things, like if someone has Parkinson's and maybe shaky hands, they can help them with their eye drops by doing hand over hand because we can't put the eye drops directly in someone's eyes. Dementia care. Dementia-trained caregivers provide assistance and redirection for behaviors, environment changes, and assist in keeping the seniors' mind engaged. And Liz is going to cover this a little bit later in much more detail. Companionship. Companionship is huge for what home care provides. We need to combat the senior isolation, especially during COVID, by engaging in hobbies and activities with the senior. And so many of our clients say to me, Aggie, you know, what your caregivers do is a lot more than just cleaning the house or preparing a meal. It's someone to visit with. It's someone to help with my mental health. A lot of these seniors, the caregiver is the only person they may see in that week's time, so that's so critical for home care.
So what are the benefits of home care? There are lots. It enables one to, of course, age in place and have greater independence. That is the #1 goal. But while doing that, it also provides for overall better health and safety. It's often much more cost-effective than alternative options. Like everything else in this day and age, institutional settings are getting expensive. It also significantly reduces the likelihood of hospital or rehab stay. Home care helped save $25 billion in hospital costs last year. It has absolutely been clinically proven that if you have home care upon discharge from a hospital, you are less likely to get readmitted to the hospital. And who likes to be in the hospital, right? So it's a good discharge plan. It speeds recovery, reduces doctor's appointments, and as Aggie said about companionship, it also fights isolation. Senior isolation is something that we take very seriously, and we saw it a lot during COVID as well. 25% of older adults feel isolated, and 30% say they do not have regular companionship. So who is eligible? Everyone! Yay! Everybody in this room! So sadly, there are not a ton of insurances that cover home care, but the wonderful side of that is there are no insurance rules to follow a lot of the time in your private pay. So we've had clients from a 0 to 100. Examples of home care, the obvious, older adults who stay independent in their home, but then there are also some others we may not think of. Persons living with disabilities all of their life, like maybe they have Down syndrome, something like that. Pregnant women on bed rest immediately post-birth, medical escorts, we get a lot of medical escorts to colonoscopies, doctor's appointments, etc. And then of course, hospice and dementia patients sometimes need up to around-the-clock care.
Oh, that's me, sorry. How is home care paid for? So there's several different ways that home care can be paid for. The first one on the list is long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance formerly was called nursing home insurance, so maybe that's what maybe some of you might know it by. But typically, long-term care insurance policies do have a provision for home care services, so you would have to check with your policy. But for those individuals to qualify, you would typically need help with 2 or 3 of your activities of daily living. Those are the ADLs we talked about earlier. And then there's a daily amount they'll pay for the policy. Sometimes there's a cap amount on the policy. And there's typically a 30, 60, 90-day elimination waiting period before the policy starts paying. The second one is the VA, and the VA stands for the Veterans Administration. Synergy Home Care is a preferred provider and network with the Community Care Program. That's the first one I'm going to talk about. So what that is that if you were a veteran, you may qualify for a little bit of help, once again with those ADLs and some other things in the home. The VA will assess the individual and then determine how many hours they would qualify for. The second part of the Community Care Program is respite, and those are additional hours that maybe an individual might need, like if they have, like their wife might be their main caregiver and needs a little bit of a break, or the individual just needs more assistance. So there's those 2 components for the Community Care Program. The aid in attendance is different. The aid in attendance is a program that veterans, if they were in the military during the time of war, they may be eligible for a benefit for home care. Also, it might cover assisted living. Once again, you would have to go through the process and see if you're qualified. This is more based on how many assets an individual has and what their income is. So that would have to be determined whether an individual would be qualified. And there is a spousal widow benefit. So if the veteran passes away, then there is a widow benefit for that one. Medicaid is the next one. And once again, you must qualify for income and assets, and the individual will be assessed to see if they would qualify for their program. We are not in network with that program, but you would have to see in the area what home cares were in network. Workman's compensation. We've worked on several workman's compensation cases, but mainly they're cases that we work on 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's an individual that has maybe granted lifetime benefits, and they're permanently disabled. Private pay is one of our most common, in addition to the long-term care in the VA. So private pay is just what it says. You pay out of pocket. And I tell families when I do an assessment, we can work with people with all different budgets. So we're there to help figure out a plan to get a little help in the home. And we can work with people's budgets to get those hours in place that they can need and use most effectively. A couple other ones that we don't see a lot, but they are in place if needed, is reverse mortgages and life insurance settlements for long-term care. Once again, you can probably check with your agent or banker, or the policy company on those details. A lot of people ask, does Medicare pay for these services? And the answer is typically no, but over the last few years, a lot of the Medicare Advantage plans have put together a component for home care. So it's something that we are even still working with. and it's all across the country, but it's spotty in areas. So it's still growing, and that's something that's going to be probably more up and coming. Okay.
Still you.
Oh, it's still me, sorry. So questions to ask when selecting a home care agency. So is the home care agency licensed? That's really important. Are they a licensed and bonded company? Is the agency locally owned and operated? Are the owners on site and are they involved? I've been with other home care companies where, it's out of the area and the owners are not involved. So that's really important. Are all the caregivers covered under workman's comp insurance, and are they licensed and bonded? So if something happens in the home, you want to make sure that that individual is licensed and bonded and there's workman's comp on them. What criminal screenings and background checks does the agency run on its caregivers? This is a real important one. You want to make sure that your caregiver hasn't robbed a 7-Eleven or something else lately. So it's important that they're on the Illinois Department of Public Health registry and they're fingerprinted and background checked. What sort of training for the caregivers receive? Are they just given maybe a couple-hour briefing and just send them out in the field? Or do they have to have several hours of orientation and then mentoring and shadowing, and we do have all those programs set up. How is the billing? Is it weekly, monthly? Are they able to work with insurances? Are their phones answered 24/7? So when you call, are you calling like an outside answering service? Are you calling another country? It's really important that you know who's going to be on call and who's going to be answering the phone, and are they going to answer the phone? What is the policy for call-off? So what happens if the caregiver gets sick the night before, or one of their kids gets sick? What is the policy for backups? What kind of plan B is in place? And is there a contract, or what type of documents do you need to sign? Just set up services. And is there a certain amount of time that you need to have those services in place? And what is the cancellation policy?
Okay, so are home health and home care the same thing? This is a question we get all the time, and it is a fair question because the names are almost exactly identical, but they actually have nothing to do with each other. And so, as we've explained, home care only provides non-medical caregivers. It does not require a physician's order. It is usually not covered by Medicare. Home health, however, are skilled services that are going to be provided by a skilled nurse, physical therapist, occupational therapist, etc. It does require a physician's order, so unlike home care, you can't restart it when you want to. There has to be a qualifying clinical condition that qualifies you. It is usually covered by Medicare, and also the quantity of care is decided for you by the medical provider in insurance, and it is usually temporary. Like maybe you're discharging from a hospital and you need wound care for a couple weeks, something like that. So further into home health, the services are provided again by a skilled professional, but it is in your home, which is another really nice aging option. Some of the things that they can do: wound care for pressure sores, maybe a surgical wound, patient and caregiver education. Maybe you have a newly diagnosed disease or chronic condition. They can help educate you through that process. Sometimes they can even do IV therapies in the home, which is really nice because sometimes those take hours, and who wants to sit in a clinic all day? They can give injections, monitor serious illnesses, manage your vital signs, especially if you're suffering from something maybe like hypertension. They can help you read those blood pressure screens. And they can also check that you're taking your prescriptions, and they can manage those medications. So there is a very good partnership between home health and home care. What we frequently do is the nurses will manage those medications, fill those med boxes for us, and then in between the times that they're there, we can ensure that they're taking those medications.
Okay, what is hospice? I'm going to give a couple definitions and kind of give some other input. Basically, it's no other treatments are working or available for chronic disease. And hospice focuses on the quality of life for the individual or the people who are experiencing an advanced disease or illness. Hospice cares provides compassionate care for people in the last phases of an incurable disease so that they may live as fully and comfortably as possible. And I would say comfort is huge. It's not just comfort for the patient, but it's comfort for the family too, because they're going along with this journey as much as their loved one is. And so one thing I want to mention about hospice is, they're not there to try and hasten or postpone death. The hospice care treats the person and the symptoms of the disease rather than treating the disease itself. And so you have a team of professionals that work together to manage those symptoms to that person's last days, maybe spent with dignity and quality, surrounded by their loved ones. So another thing I wanted to mention is insurance and Medicare typically will help with the cost. Each plan is different, so you would have to check with your insurance program. And I always tell families, because I learned this from the hospice, because we work a lot with hospice people and companies, is it's additional medical assistance in the house to help out. So a lot of people think, hospice, and it is a scary word, that person's going to die tomorrow. That's not necessarily the case. We've worked with many, many clients who have been in hospice for 6 months, a year, 2 years. They've gotten better. They've gone off hospice. So once you're on hospice, if things change, doesn't mean you're on it for forever. What are some of the hospice services that come to the home? Home visits to the patient by professionals such as physicians, nurses, social workers, CNAs, which stands for Certified Nursing Assistants, and chaplains. They do a lot of medication prescribing, to manage the symptoms and management control, oversight on that, counseling and companionship, and a lot of them even have friendly visitors that will come sit with, the patient. Assistance with activities of daily living, such as hygiene and baths. So a lot of hospices will send what they call a bath aide once or twice a week to help that patient. And the myth is when hospice happens, as I'm working with so many families, the myth is they think that hospice is going to be there around the clock, and that's not the case. So that's where a home care can come in to fill the gaps, to be there when the other professionals are not. The next one is palliative care. So the easiest way to describe this, and I'll read a little bit more here, is palliative care is in between home health, what Liz just talked about a little bit ago, and hospice, what I just talked about. So they're not well enough to qualify for home health, but they're not sick enough to really qualify for hospice. So once again, it's a group of professionals that will manage the care by coming to the home, and it's mainly with people who have a serious illness like cancer or maybe heart failure. And the palliative care is meant to enhance a person's current care by focusing on the quality of life for them and for the family. And once again, some of those professionals might be doctors, nurse practitioners, social workers, and nutritionists. And the frequency they come to the home is less than if they were on home health or hospice. Other services in the home. We are so lucky here in McLean County. We have some amazing resources in place. So Liz and I brainstormed and we tried to put a pretty thorough list together. And if you have any questions on how to get connected with some of these resources I'm going to talk about, we would be happy to help. Just give us a call. So there's various transportation options are available for appointments, including handicap accessible vehicles that will hold a wheelchair. We are aware of different places of transportation that can even transport bariatric patients. Friendly visitors and friendly phone call programs are available to help fight that senior isolation we talked about earlier. Home meal delivery is available for seniors over 60, so you might all qualify, and older 7 days a week. And once again, that's to help with that nutrition we talked about earlier. Geriatric counseling is available via phone or Zoom. Hybrid support groups are available in person and via Zoom. And these are a lot of these are in place for the main caregiver in the home to give them support. There's caregiver skill workshops on topics like stress relief, planning, paying for long-term care, peace of mind planners, completing POA paperwork, nutrition are available in person, but the workbooks can also be mailed to the home. Brain training activity packets that include things like word searches, Sudoku, trivia are also available to be mailed to the home.
Okay, dementia. This is one of the worst things in the world, but one of my favorite things to talk about because there's so much education available about dementia. Try not to have you here the rest of the day though, okay? So why do we need to talk about dementia? Currently, there are over 6 million people in the United States living with dementia. It kills more than prostate cancer and prostate cancer combined. And last year, we saw deaths from Alzheimer's disease increase by 145%. So to say it's an issue in the aging population is almost an understatement. It's something that we're trying to fight fiercely, but it's difficult to fight because it's a complicated disease. Thanks to Synergy's dedication to training, Aggie and I both are certified dementia practitioners. And so it's something that we work with quite a bit. So what is dementia? It is when one healthy nerve cells in the brain stop working, lose connections with other brain cells, and die. While everyone loses some neurons as they age, people with dementia experience far greater loss. We get frequently in the aging world the question, is being forgetful a normal part of aging? If you ask a doctor, they're going to tell you no. If you ask me, who's worked in geriatric care for a decade, a little bit. But the important part is to notice the difference when it's okay or when it's starting to become a problem. So some signs and symptoms of dementia can vary on the type, but experiencing memory loss, poor judgment, and confusion, of course, those are kind of the standard ones. But also difficulty speaking, understanding and expressing thoughts, reading or writing. Sometimes we even see things like aphasia, depending on what's going on. Wandering and getting lost in a familiar neighborhood. Unfortunately, my grandmother was diagnosed with dementia a couple years ago, and I always throw under the bus and use her as examples, but she knows, she's okay with it. She has lived in Kansas her entire life. She's gone to the same church for 75 years, and it's 2 miles from her house. She started with cognitive mild impairment, which is kind of, you don't have dementia yet, but you're starting to see some decline. She started getting lost at church, and that's when we were like, okay, that is a sign that there's going to be a serious problem, because there's no reason why that should be happening. Trouble handling money responsibly and paying bills. I know in my world I see a lot of issues with checks, starting to write wrong numbers, starting to write it multiple times, things like that. So that's a really good thing to keep a close eye on as we start to decline. Repeating questions. So I do this. My husband tells me something and I don't listen. He tells me the next day and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's normal. What would not be normal is asking the same question like every 30 minutes, for example. Taking longer to complete a normal task. As we start to get dementia and cognitive decline, we have plaques and tangles in our brain, and it just takes us longer to process information. So another example I use, this one's actually not mine. Liz Hageman is in charge of education for Alzheimer's Association, and her grandmother also had dementia, as do many of us that are passionate about the topic. And she was over there one day. Her grandmother was still in the early stages of dementia, but she was standing at the sink with a toothbrush in her hand, and she said, "Grandma, what are you doing?" And she's like, "I can't remember how to do this." Her brain just completely couldn't make those connections and forgot how to do that simple task. And she was still cooking and living by herself, but for some reason, sometimes you lose just really random specific things. Losing interest in normal daily activities or events. What would be normal is like, I'm tired today, I don't really feel like doing this. But what I always tell my facility friends when I'm doing education in their buildings is what wouldn't be normal is if you have someone that's very active, comes to all the activities, and then one day they just completely stop and they don't go to any activities anymore. That's usually very indicative that they've had a cognitive change. Maybe it's too overwhelming for them, maybe they just can't remember, maybe they can't keep up and they're self-conscious about that. And so that's another good thing to keep an eye on. Acting impulsively, for example, if you have something like frontal temporal lobe dementia, that you lose the ability to control yourself. So I can say, oh, Aggie's water looks yummy, and just grab it and start drinking it, for example. And I have absolutely no control over that if I have that type of dementia. Losing balance, problems with movement. This is another thing that doesn't get talked about a lot. Sometimes you start to see issues with balance. And also visual changes. So for example, people with dementia, they start to lose some of their peripheral vision. So I could be walking and just completely run into this because I don't see it anymore. So how can we deal with dementia at home? It's something that we work with quite a bit. As I said, you absolutely can live safely with dementia for quite a while. So what are the ways that we can do that? Putting fewer demands on recent memory. Let's simplify the schedule, let's write things down, let's keep a notebook containing important information. Like for my grandma, we have a big dry erase board next to her phone. We write, she still goes bowling, she still goes to her canasta club every week, but we write all of that down along with like my mom's information, her primary doctor, and an emergency contact. So it's all just right there so she doesn't have to worry about it. This is a favorite of mine, journal thoughts or ideas you want to hold on to. Dementia, again, it's one of those things that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You don't have a lot of control over it. On average, after a dementia diagnosis, patients live 4 to 8 years, but they can live up to 20. So 4 to 20 years is quite a range. And it also progresses differently. And so once you have that diagnosis, that's the time to check in with your kids, write down those memories that you want to remember, pass along those photos, whatever it is, but cherish those memories while you have them. Post important phone numbers next to the phone. Do activities you enjoy at the time of day that you feel best. It's really common with dementia to have sundowners, which is something where you have a little bit more behavior and a little bit more forgetfulness in the evening. So maybe you start to schedule your activities during the day or a little bit earlier than you used to. Educate yourself about the disease. There are over 100 different types of dementia, and again, they progress very differently. And so if you have a specific diagnosis, having yourself and your loved ones educate yourselves on those, that way you know kind of what to expect, things like that. And try memory aids and checklists. See a lot of sticky notes in the homes, and if that's what works for you, that's great. Sometimes I can get a little crazy though. Yeah. Oh, you changed mine, I just didn't notice. Oh, I don't have dementia yet. Oh boy, that's fine. Okay, so maintain a consistent routine. Those with dementia love routine, and they do not appreciate it being changed. So you want to find a routine that works well for everyone because you're going to be on it for a long time. Writing down that schedule. Again, like I said, for my grandma, we have a dry erase board. So whatever that schedule is for you, just write it down so they don't have to remember. You can mark off the days on the calendar if you'd like to. As we said previously, scheduling things for the best time of day. Also just slowing down. Again, it just takes them a little bit longer to process that information. So allowing more time to get them ready. You never want to rush a dementia patient. It's not going to work. It's going to stress them out. It's going to stress you out. And so making sure to just schedule more time into whatever the activity is. So tips for a healthful environment. I know at Synergy, anytime we admit a patient, we do a home safety checklist and just evaluate what's going on. So eliminate clutter, noise, glare, and background. Those with cognitive decline get overstimulated easily. Some types of dementia, they can even start to hallucinate and hear things that we're not hearing, like Lewy body dementia, for example. I give the example, I had a patient one time. And our hearing sometimes goes as we get older as well, so this husband was just blaring his TV, I mean, all the way on max. He's like, I just don't know why my wife's so agitated. I'm agitated. that is overstimulating and loud. And that's really hard when you've got a lot of other things going on in your brain. So more blinds, more turning things down, whatever it is. Using labels, that can be, we do that a lot for clients like in the kitchen or the bathroom. So they can grab things for themselves and maintain that independence as long as possible. Simplifying tasks and routine, we've already talked about, but also finding opportunities for exercise and activities, regardless of your age. There is no point where it's like, oh, well, I've hit 70, so I can just stop being active. No, you always want to be active, no matter what age you're at. We always say in healthcare, if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's for a reason, it's very true. It's important to stay exercise, stay active, and that doesn't have to be anything. You're not going to go run a marathon. I'm certainly not going to do that. But maybe the American Heart Association says you want to elevate your heart 3 times a week for 30 minutes. So go for a walk, go dancing, go swimming, go to Pilates, whatever it is, but always stay active, and those with dementia as well. Develop soothing rituals. You'll find if you've ever had someone with dementia, they're just things that work for them. We had a patient at our Urbana office. She was already in a memory unit, but they also had home care involved because her sundowners was so bad. She was punching, spitting, cussing, all the things. And her family was like, I'm so sorry, she was never like this. We know, it is the disease, it is not the person. But you couldn't get her in the shower, you couldn't change her pens, you couldn't do anything. It was starting to become a safety issue. Well, we figured out that this little light of mine was her jam. So what we would do is we'd play that on repeat while we're trying to get her to change her pens and get her in her jammies, and it would take her from a here to a here. Also, just straight up bribery work. Sometimes I had another patient would not shower, would never shower. You give that woman a Reese's cup, she'll do anything you want. So whatever is going to work for you, sometimes it's not the most logical thing, but just find what works and do it as much as you need to. So dealing with feelings, this is another one that I like to talk about. I know it's not the most fun topic, but as we age, as we get new diagnoses, as we get new challenges, as we get a hospice diagnosis, as we get a dementia diagnosis, these are very, very difficult things, and there are so many generational and gender and racial differences in dealing with feelings and emotions and how we handle things, but it's so important to get support, whatever that looks like for you. So pay attention to those feelings, discussing them, especially those with dementia. Again, they're going to have a harder time processing those, so helping them work through that as best you can. Losing your independence as well, that is something that is so, so difficult, and so helping them work through that. A lot of the times, just doing what you can do. Like my grandma, we had to take away her car keys, and she was pissed. But we were like, we'll have your best friends pick you up for canasta. We'll have my mom come and pick you up for bowling and go with you. I really tried to emphasize, you can still do the things that you love, we just have to do them in a little bit safer of a way. And so that was able to find our compromise, but she can still stay active, she can still stay positive, and still around those that she loves. Also, joining support groups. There are a million different support groups. Some are in person, some are online, some are for spouses, some are for men, whatever it is. There are many available in McLean County. The Alzheimer's Association also have online ones if you just want to do it at home. And so I really encourage you to find people that are experiencing things that you are experiencing because they can relate to you so much better. And so find your support system and all that good stuff.
So where do you go from here? It's quite easy. You just call our office at 309-808-3047, and one of our team will do what we call an intake. They'll learn more about your loved one and their needs, and they'll schedule a free in-home assessment. So at the assessment, we will identify the personal needs and develop a care plan, and which services we've talked about today what this individual would most need. And also what we do is we identify the home safety changes. So when I'm at an assessment, I actually walk through the home and look at the bathroom. Would it help to have like a shower head put on that's just has a cord on it? Do we need grab bars put up? Do we need to pull up the rugs, the throw rugs that Grandma made 100 years ago, or put something safety under them so nobody slips? So we do that as well. And when we're at the assessment, if we determine, gosh, I don't know, Synergy is the best solution for you, for your loved one, we'll help you figure that out. We're the experts. We have the solutions. We have a lot of resources. So just keep in mind when we come and do those free in-home assessments, we're keeping in mind the whole individual and the family. Our care is available 24/7, 365 days a year, and can typically start in 48 hours or less. And I tell families and clients, what you decide today is not written in stone. So if you want more help, you can add more help. If you don't need as much, you can decrease your hours. So there's a lot of flexibilities in what people need, and the families and the clients really love that. So we appreciate that's wrapping up our presentation today, and we appreciate you Gold-Timers inviting us here to talk with you.
We wore our gold shoes.
Yes, and we didn't have anything gold, but we wore gold shoes, yeah. And we put like a list of all the services that HomeCare that we provide, and if there's much more, we can put everything on the list. So that'll at least give you an idea. We also, of what we do, can do. And then there's also a Google review card if you like this presentation. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a Google review, we would just love that. And so once again, we thank you truly for your time, and we want to open it up for any questions you might have. Can we have the lights?
Yes, over there. Team, would you like to come up as well so you can help us answer questions? They heard us talk a lot. Yes, over there. Actually, I'm going to bring you the mic so everyone can hear your question, if that's okay.
Let's say you have knee surgery, would you take someone to physical therapy and get them in the car and get them home and that service?
Were you able to hear that?
No.
She said if you had knee surgery, would you be able to help take them to physical therapy, pick them up, and things like that?
Absolutely. And in a situation like that, you may be discharged from hospital to rehab, undergo PT, NOT while you're at rehab, then discharged to home with home health to continue PT. Or you might be assigned to OSF as a PT off of Fort Jesse. We can drive you there. And one thing we encourage families and our caregivers to do is to learn those PT exercises with you. Because just because PT stopped because Medicare wasn't going to pay for it or Blue Cross wasn't going to pay for it, doesn't mean you won't benefit from the continuation of that physical therapy. Anybody else?
Comment than a question. I have used Synergy 2 times, different parents, and when you are on hospice, sometimes that grace period for 30, 60, 90 days can be waived. Your insurance.
Oh, for long-term care insurance, yes. And there are some amazing policies out there that we do a lot of State Farm long-term care filing of claims. Country Companies is huge. John Hancock, Pacific Life, MetLife. And we process our clients' claims on a weekly basis. So that the reimbursement to the long-term care policy holder is usually less than 14 days. But many of those policies, when elected, they have no waiting period. So it's important to look at that, and it's important to start the claim. If you do have a waiting period, you don't postpone home care. You're going to have to pay some out-of-pocket expenses, and how you determine or how you decide the family is going to do that. But you want the clock ticking so that your reimbursement is going to happen. And we need lots of seniors who say, oh, I don't know if I want to use it. You've been paying for me for God knows how many years. Get them to kick in. And I think a lot of our parents, my dad was always just, I just might need it later. Dad, you're not buying green bananas anymore. Let's get going.
One other thing I want to add is, that was a great point you made, is if someone is going to go on hospice, they may wipe out that elimination time. But also, if you're in the hospital or in rehab, those days will probably typically count towards that elimination period.
I have 2 questions, actually. If you have meal prep, do you bring the food to the house? Do you do the grocery shopping and the meal prep?
We like families to purchase their own groceries, but we can go do the grocery shopping for you. You provide us with a list. Our caregivers have access to a Synergy credit card. They come by our office, they check that card out, they go shop for your family, they bring us the receipt back, we make a copy, and it goes on the bill for the following week. So we can help support that. One thing born out of COVID, which has been real interesting, is, what's the name of that meal place that you, the Hello Fresh, or I think there was Blue Apron, where you can select meals for for your family member. The fresh ingredients are delivered to the home, and then the caregiver and your family member can cook that meal together. And that, I think, was such a beautiful evolution that we got to see that actually our client was teaching our caregiver how to cook, and they were following a recipe together. And there is great communion in that. And I'd like to see more of that. And we have some family members that use Instacart. They just say, I'm gonna have, they don't live in state, or they live in Chicago. And so they get groceries weekly to be delivered to the house via Instacart. And then they meal plan for the week on what they're going to do.
And one more question. I have John Hancock. Long-term care, can you help me translate what that is? Or do I need to contact?
I would contact your John Hancock agent. Was it sold to you by State Farm? Was it part of your benefit package?
No, I've had it for 40 years, you know.
So,
a long time, but I don't know what.
We find that if you contact John Hancock, they'll be able to tell you, do I have an elimination period? They won't disclose that to us because we're not, I'm not a policy holder. So you need to initiate that. They'll tell you what your waiting period is. They'll tell you what your benefit is. They'll tell you, well, you have to have support of 2 activities of daily living or more. But they can tell you their process. When we're contacted by Hancock, MetLife, State Farm, Country, the client has initiated the claim. And then they reach out to us and they request a copy of our license, which is issued by IPH, and then they request a copy of our insurance. And we get that sent to them, the claim is going, and we start sending claim documentation the following week of services.
Do you provide services outside of Plain County, say like Livingston County and Pontiac?
We do. We are actually licensed in Livingston, McLean, Woodford. We usually just handle the eastern side of Woodford, El Paso, because a good friend of ours, Laura's here from our Peoria office, and they handle really the western side of Peoria or Woodford out towards Peoria and Stark. But we are also in Fort, Hyatt, Macon, DeWitt, Champaign, Sangamon, Christian, Menard, Logan. And we're really trying to provide more service for what we know there is a potential great need in Lincoln. Taylor is working to nurture our Lincoln communities, and we have a regional client care supervisor who's from Pontiac, and she's really nurturing the Pontiac area. We know there's a great need up there. But we have clients in Chenoa, Lexington, Lake Wilmington, Hudson, Minear, Shirley, Atlanta, and then Gibson City, Farmer City, as we get down to Champaign, because I met a farmer out in Anchor once, and he said to me, the only way I'm leaving this house is feet first. And I said, we can help you do that. And he was born in that house, and he was going to die there, and that's a beautiful thing, and HomeCare helped him reach that goal.
We love your questions.
One more question. Let's say I have a dog. Would the caregiver walk the dog?
Yes.
Part of the service?
The dog is a part of your family, and we really appreciate that. We had a client who, her little dog, she went out and walked her that day and tripped over a raised sidewalk and broke her shoulder and broke her elbow. And part of our service was Casper needed to be walked every morning and every evening before they left. And when we match our caregivers, it's kind of like dating, what do you like, what don't you like? And we'll have caregivers come in and say, I am allergic to cats. We kind of put a block on cats for them. We'll have some say, I just love dogs. So they're a good match for people that have dogs. We do request that those dogs are behaved and not biters. There's one way to get us to leave, it's to bite us.
In my case management days in Urbana, I had a lady who was a cockatoo trainer, and she had 6 cockatoos that would just fly freely through her house, and we fed them and cleaned their cage. I don't know that I was super happy about it, but we did it.
But no, we know what animals are part, especially seniors, that the animal is part of their happiness. It keeps them calm, and it's companionship when others are not there. And so we actually have a part on our plan of care. Is there an animal? What's the animal's name? And what are we going to do for this animal? Well, that looks like that's it. I want to thank you folks so much for allowing us to be a part of your morning. Should you have any questions, we'll all be up here. We've all got business cards. Again, Taylor represents our Decatur and our Springfield areas. We have offices in both those locations. And Liz is our community liaison over McLean County, all the way down to the Champaign-Urbana area. Aggie is our senior client care manager. She does assessments. If you have a need, call us. If we're not the solution, we'll help you find out what is. Thank you.
Energy, I learned a whole lot of good information. I'm sure everybody else would agree with me. There's always something you pick up about a topic that you know nothing about, but you're gonna need to know about that topic. So thank you. A couple of real quick things. I didn't realize how many dates we were gonna throw out at you today. But I did make a copy of the information about the Family Fun Day at State Farm Park. There's a limited number of copies by the water. If you want to take a picture of it on your camera, you can do that. Our next quarterly meeting is going to be on November 9th at 10 o'clock. We will be here. The topic is 2024 Financial Planning and Economic Outlook. Thank you all for coming today.